I think one of the most important First Amendment issues today is the regulation of social media platforms such as Twitter and Facebook. These companies have become so powerful in our marketplace of ideas that the issue really is, should they be regulated more closely, kind of in line with broadcasters, free over-the-air radio and television, which the Federal Communications Commission can regulate very closely. Freedom of religion issues are also very important. We saw the United States Supreme Court recently rule in a case called Kennedy versus Bremerton, involving what we thought of as the praying football coach, the coach who, after the football games at a public high school, prayed in the center of the field on the 50-yard line, and that raised serious questions about did that violate the separation of church and state. And the current 6-justice conservative majority of the Supreme Court said no, it didn't. That was his First Amendment right of free speech, as well as his right to freely exercise his religious beliefs. Actually, I think the conservatives on the court take a very pro-free speech, pro-free expression views, but particularly in some areas of the law, not all areas. I think there's a libertarian streak among many of those justices. Certainly on many issues, the liberals and conservatives will come together. The issues where they're going to separate is when there's a question about speech related to the topic of abortion, where basically that becomes a surrogate issue for the larger topic of abortion. And so we might see those issues arising now, since the court struck down Roe versus Wade. One of the next frontiers and issues that we're going to see is, what about states that want to regulate speech about abortion, providing information to women about here's where availability of abortions would be in another state, or here's at home what you could do. I think the most common misperception about the First Amendment is that it protects us from censorship by private entities and private organizations. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech or the press, and Congress today means any state, local, or federal government entity and official, but it doesn't include private entities. And that's where the question comes in about big, powerful social media entities like Twitter and Facebook. When they choose to deplatform someone, that does not raise a First Amendment issue. Another misperception about the First Amendment is that it does not protect hate speech. Indeed, the First Amendment protects a lot of hateful and offensive and disagreeable speech. The First Amendment only allows the restriction of hate speech when it falls into an already, or is used in the context of an already existing unprotected category. So fighting words are not protected by the First Amendment. Fighting words are one-on-one, face-to-face words where the target of the speech is likely to swing back and fight and hit the speaker. So I think that's another misperception, that somehow hate speech is not protected by the First Amendment. The big picture is it generally is, unless it's used in the context of such as a true threat, fighting words, or incitement to violence. Because the University of Florida is a public institution, students, staff, and faculty do have First Amendment rights. So when you think about if you were at Stetson University or University of Miami, those are private universities. So students there do not have First Amendment rights as applied or against those institutions. So we're lucky here, students are lucky at the University of Florida because they do have First Amendment rights.